Woo! It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
And welcome back to another episode of the Bubble It Sports Podcast, everybody. This is episode 139, another Cowboys focused episode. We're back again with Kevin, my boy. Say hi to the people.
Hi to the people. Hi to the Bubba Bunches.
The Bubba Bunch. I think you just say
Bubba
bunch.
The bunch? Yeah,
we're all
Bubba Bunch
one
sounds
bunch,
good too.
You know, bro?
We're united, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't believe how that's really become a thing. Like I just one day saw that bunch formation. I was like, I should call it the Bubba Bunch.
The Bubba Bunch. I always text you when I see it, like when I'm watching the game. Like,
Dude,
that's the Bubba Bunch.
That's all I need. That's all I want is like when someone sees that play, they're like, that's the Bubba Bunch. And then they meet like someone that's actually really good with football, and they'll be like, what the fuck did you just say? It's like, it's just a bunch.
It's like, bro, don't worry about it. It's a Bubba Bunch, right?
Hey,
you
bro,
don't know.
like,
you don't know.
Hey, you don't know the vibes. You don't know the vibes.
You don't know the fucking vibes.
No, you don't, bro. 138, right? I think I just said that. But today we're going to be focusing on the Cowboys 2020 schedule. It came out a few weeks ago. And off the bat, man, I'm actually a big optimist. What the fuck am I trying to say?
Optimistic.
I'm very optimistic. I was trying to say
Yes.
whatever. I'm very optimistic for this schedule because honestly, just reading off the teams, I'm seeing at least double-digit wins.
I agree. I could see double-digit wins as well.
And that's just the biased Cowboys fan in me because all I am is biased. I think the Eagles suck. I think the Giants suck. The Redskins can suck my ass. It's Cowboys or nothing. They're winning the Super Bowl, dude.
Listen.
Super Bowl.
Listen, I mean, I've been saying, bro. It's Super Bowl. It's going to happen.
For sure, man. But we're going to go through our predictions for every game.
Yes,
who
sir.
we think they'll lose to, they'll win to, and give our overall record that we think the Cowboys will make at the end of the episode. And stay tuned for later on in the week where we're going to talk a little bit more about just the free agency offseason moves that the Cowboys have made and talk a lot about Aldon Smith, who just got reinstated. So good thing about him and how he'll impact the Dallas Cowboys for this next upcoming season. So save that for another day. But right now, let's just start it off right off the bat. The first game ever at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California for the Los Angeles Rams. The Cowboys will visit them in Week 1. Finally, a little bit different from every other season where they go against the Giants.
Real.
I think it was much needed. It's going to help the NFL in Week 1. Some really good games. Isn't it Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson in Week 1 too?
Yes, it is.
Which is awesome. I love that matchup. But I'm actually really excited for two teams that really disappointed last season in the NFC. Yeah. Rams are looking to bounce back, even though they can't pay anybody in that franchise. First game ever in that beautiful stadium.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Both teams chip on their shoulder, man. I think the Cowboys have more to prove in their first game with Mike McCarthy. So many storylines to work with here. But I kind of imagine what it was like for the Giants to come into that new AT&T Stadium in 2009, 2010, to where they played the Cowboys and beat them in their home turf for the very first time. I honestly see, just right off the bat, I see the Rams losing this game, the first ever game in the new stadium, because they just have a lot of stuff that they've lost, and they're probably trying to find their identity with that team. The Cowboys are going to be more polished, more experienced in a sense to where they're ready for game 1. And I think it's going to be a competitive game. It's Sunday night. I love to see it, but I think the Cowboys squeeze this one out.
I agree. I think the Cowboys will win this game. And I think you basically hit my point where right now the Rams are a team without an identity. I mean, because for so long it was like, oh, those are the Rams, but it's the Rams with Todd Gurley.
Right. It's Todd Gurley and company.
Exactly. Really that's how it was. That was the Rams' identity for the past 2 years before last season when he got injured. And I hope Todd Gurley nothing but the best. I hope he recovers because that man's an absolute monster when he's healthy.
Hope he gets paid.
Hope he gets paid. Exactly. So I do think this game is going to be a Cowboys win. I really think that the Rams, it's going to take them a couple games to find out who
Yes.
they are
Yeah.
this season. Um, you know, I I was kind of surprised because Jared Goff regressed this season. And I know it's typical for a lot of quarterbacks to, like regress like every X season, but he regressed kind of bad. And I know he wasn't like MVP level, like the year they went to the Super Bowl, but he was a considerably very good quarterback. So Jared Goff has to find what happened last season and improve on it for this season. No more Todd Gurley. I think now their starting running back is
Probably Cam Akers from Florida
Cam
State, who they got in
Akers.
the draft,
Yes.
which is a really good pick for Jared Goff. He's a pass blocker, which is really
Yeah.
nice, but he can also run the ball very well. Florida State running backs are highly touted. Dalvin
Yeah.
Cook over the years. So I think
Yeah.
that was a great pickup to replace Todd Gurley, but it does add some like adjustment period
Yes.
to where
Yes.
Jared Goff has to understand, like, look, it's my team now.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing going for this team right now is their wide receiver core with Cooper Cup, and they did lose Brandon Cooks, which was a heavy loss, but Robert Woods is still a great guy.
100%.
And they re-signed Andrew Whitworth, amazing re-sign by them. It's for me it's the defensive side, because I'm not going to doubt Sean McVay's abilities whatsoever.
Oh,
That man
no,
is smart.
absolutely not.
That man
Never.
is still a hot shot in this league. And it's really the matter of Wade Phillips leaving Los Angeles, and a lot of those players are now gone. Clay Matthews, they're basically their linebacker core is gone. They lose
Yeah.
Ndamukong
Yeah, they
Suh.
are.
I get it. They still have Aaron Donald, who is probably the best defensive player that we've seen in a very long time. Yet, you need to find an identity, and you're not going to find that in week one.
Yeah, so it's a good thing you bring up the defense, because right now the Rams defense is basically just Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, when you think of that defense, you don't think of anybody else but those two. Before you could have at least said Clay Matthews. Before you could have at least said oh my God, I'm blanking on his name from Jacksonville, Dante Fowler. You could have thought about Dante Fowler. You could have thought about Ndamukong Suh, but they're all gone now, like you said. And whether it's going to be that they're bringing up these guys that they picked in the draft, whether it's they're going to be signing some more players throughout the offseason, whatever the case may be, there's going to be an adjustment period. And I don't think week one is going to be enough. So, I say Cowboys win week one. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I think it's going to be exactly like last season's game, where we blew them out bad.
Blew out the Giants.
No, we blew out the Rams.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant week one. Sorry.
No. Yeah, we blew out the Rams, and I think it's going to happen again,
Okay,
because
well,
I just don't see it.
I didn't think that game last year against the Rams was an important game at all. I thought that was going to be a fluke game for the Cowboys. Like, they were going to win, and they were going to win really well, which they ended up doing. But it showed in those weeks after, where I'm like, no, that's just a random, like, stars aligned. And the Rams didn't show up. The Cowboys did. But this doesn't prove that the Cowboys are going to be even better. I honestly think it's going to be close, because it's week one. And, the Cowboys have a lot of pressure on them, have a big chip on their shoulder. And it's the Cowboys. They got to get over that little hump of, like, oh, we're going to mess up because we're the Cowboys. Kind of like that mentality.
That's a fair point, and I do get like your argument, but I don't know, dude. Like I feel like one of the biggest like issues a team could have is identity, and I guess you can say that the Cowboys are trying to find their identity with Mike McCarthy, but
you know what you have.
Exactly. It's not a big. It's not. I think the differences are extremely, extremely far apart between the Rams and the Cowboys. So that's why I think that for sure this is not going to be a close game.
Yeah.
I'm not calling like a 40-point blowout, but like around a score of like maybe like
2-3 possession game.
Yeah, 28-10. Like maybe like 35 like 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Two possessions.
I would love to see of course, you want to see like 40 plus points, 30 plus points, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not excited to see that. I would love to see CeeDee Lamb have a great performance, but really, it's a matter of how that defense plays.
Oh yeah, for
Come
sure.
out with that new defensive scheme with amazing talent across the board. See some new guys that you want to see perform, and
Mhm.
I want to see them dominate. I want them to limit to 3 to 10 points, whatever it
Yeah.
is. A strong defensive performance to solidify, like, hey, we're back. Hot Boys is here to
Hot
stay.
Boys is back. Yeah.
Because last season there was no Hot Boys. There was none of it. So to come out this season and say, look, we're back. Like, we have the talent. And we're behind Mike Nolan. We're behind Jim Tom Sula. We're behind these guys. Let's go out and prove that we're going to be a top 10 defense throughout the season, consistently, not just 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 weeks out of the year. We're going to come out and do this on a weekly basis.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't say this is a statement game because I think the game a couple weeks in advance is going to be the statement game. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I
But
honestly think that the following week against the Atlanta Falcons will be a statement game. Personally, I think the Cowboys will lose this game.
you know what? This one was tough for me too because when I was thinking about the Falcons game, you know, ironically enough, we're going from the Rams to the Falcons. Falcons now have Todd Gurley. And I think this game is gonna rely on two factors. One, how Matt Ryan plays.
Yes.
Because Matt Ryan has, in my opinion, regressed significantly. Like I said in the podcast, the last podcast we had, I don't think Matt Ryan deserves $30 million. I'm sorry, I don't think he does. I think he's an above average quarterback, but for him to get paid $30 million to have been regressing the past 2 years since the Super Bowl, he's not worth it. So I think that for sure it's going to be on Matt Ryan. It's also going to be on Todd Gurley because, look, you got Julio Jones, in my opinion, the second best receiver in the NFL. He's a monster. We all know that. You got Calvin Ridley. That duo is already a monstrous duo,
Yeah,
and that's
love that
for,
duo.
that's for sure going to cause problems on our defense because, I mean, who are you going to put on Julio Jones? Trevon Diggs? I mean, he's barely a rookie. He's great. He's great. He has promise, but he's barely a rookie. So it's all going to be on Matt Ryan. I don't know. This is a really tough game because I feel like right now their offense is what's really going to prove them as a team because I haven't really followed the Falcons, but I have not seen any big signings. Or
I would say their biggest transactions or really their biggest moves that they've done in the offseason was in the draft. They got some really talented players. A.J. Terrell is going to be their starting corner. Marlon Davidson from Auburn is going to be their defense tackle. Great pickup there. They did pick up Hayden Hurst.
Oh, that's right. They did pick up Hayden Hurst.
They got rid of Austin Hooper, who is undoubtedly one of the most productive tight ends in the league.
That's very
They
true.
replaced him with a really good one who still has a lot to prove. He didn't get much because of Mark Andrews in Baltimore. But honestly, like, I'm going to disagree with that because I feel like it's the defense that needs to step up. And there is still some things they need to work out on defense. But I think the Falcons playing last season and just shitting the bed. I mean, they disappointed everybody. Their offense was there. Like, they had an offense. Nothing changed. It was their defense that had so many injuries. And then they had so many offseason moves that went the other way. They got rid of a lot of guys. And they had to make up for it. I think now it's the defense that really has to step up. And, I'm not going to doubt any of the offense that can happen here. But honestly, I think they're going to catch the Cowboys by surprise. They're going to score a lot of points, but they're also going to limit the Cowboys to a lot of points here. Even though it's going to be a road game, I'm not a big fan of home field advantage for the Dallas Cowboys. I've never been a fan because the crowd's not rowdy at all. They're not. They really fall off of the bandwagon really quick in Dallas. But for the Falcons to come in and win a huge game on the road to really kind of get their season going, I see that happening for Atlanta. And I see Matt Ryan having a day here. I really do. So I count this as a L for the Cowboys.
So I think when it comes to like your defensive argument, you make a lot of good points, but I think at the end of the day, this game is going to be an offensive shootout in my opinion, just because for one, the Falcons defense, it's somewhat under reconstruction mode.
It
You
is.
know, it's under reconstruction, and to a certain extent, you can say that the Cowboys defense is under reconstruction as well. However, um, they got rookies coming in. They lost. They lost Keanu Neal.
No, they still
They
have him.
who did they let
They
go then?
lost.
Because it
Who
was
did
it
they
was another big
lose?
name.
It is. I'm just blanking on it. The
Oh,
Colts
Deion
picked
Jones,
him.
right? Deion Jones, right?
No, they still have him too.
No, who is it? It's a big name that they
He
lost.
went to the Colts. I know that because I thought that was a great move, but everyone thought that it was
It was
bad.
it was it was their corner, I think.
Um. Do we look
Oh,
stupid?
was it Desmond Trufant?
Desmond Trufant. Thank you.
Yes, Desmond Trufant. Yes. So they lost Desmond Trufant as their number one corner. So AJ Terrell is going to come in and replace him. But when you look at the Cowboys defense and the Atlanta defense side by side, I have to go with the Cowboys just because we on paper we look better than them right now. So that's why I say that even though we do look better, it's still very similar. So that's why I'm saying that this game, in my opinion, is going to be an offensive shootout. What I think is going to happen, I do think the Cowboys are going to lose this game. I do agree, but I think it's going to be an extremely, very, very close game. I'm talking like maybe 31-28, 24-21, something like that.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very close. But I guess my main thing about this game, it really depends on Matt Ryan and Todd Gurley, in my opinion.
Yeah. We'll see. It'll put the defensive line to the test for sure because that's a really strong opportunity to prove that you can stop the run, but also it's a matter of getting to the quarterback because I mean last time they played the Falcons, remember what happened with that offensive line.
Yes.
So it's important to rush the quarterback definitely against a team like that.
Yeah. So I guess we're starting off the season 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, I
1-1.
honestly like just off the bat, I was like win, 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 win. I was like, no, that's not what the Cowboys will do.
No.
Like, there's got to be one game in there that they got to lose. And honestly, in week 2 to lose to a good Falcons team that's redeeming themselves, I think that's the best thing for the Cowboys because they can learn from their mistakes. They can learn that hey, it's not going to be easy coast like ride to the Super Bowl. Like it's gonna take a lot of effort, and we're gonna learn from our mistakes. And whether you have all the talent in the world, you're gonna have mistakes.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good way of the media kind of like criticizing them and saying like, oh, this is what you did wrong. This is what you did wrong. You did this right, but you got to work on this stuff. And I think Mike McCarthy is in good position there to really bounce off of that and do well, especially with the next game because they travel to Seattle, which they have very good success going to Seattle and winning there against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes, they do. And this is my statement game.
Yes.
So this is what I was saying. This is going to be a statement game. So against Seattle in Seattle, we have a good history of playing in Seattle. I think that this is a statement game for a couple reasons. One, you're going to play against the Rams, which, like I said, in my opinion, I think it's not going to be close. We're going to win. So you're going to gain the confidence to where, okay, you got a game where you win. This is what it feels like to win with this new system, with this new team, with this new coaching staff. All right, we got a good game under our belt. Then we go to Atlanta, where we both agreed that we're probably going to lose this game. In my opinion, I think it's going to be very, very close. Now, this is the biggest point that I'm going to make. That week from Atlanta to Seattle, that week preparation, it's going to be the most, I guess I would say.
Locked in, focused.
Yes,
Yep.
Exactly. 100%. Like this coaching staff, they're not going to let anything slip. They're going to put everything. They're going to put their all into that 1 week of preparation because I guess I got to bring it up again. I frankly don't care about Jared Goff. I don't care about Matt Ryan. Do I care about how we look against Russell Wilson?
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
With a much
So,
improved running game,
exactly.
with a much improved wide receiver core. That defense is always unpredictable because they always seem to have it on point no matter what players you plug in. It always seems to work under Pete Carroll.
Exactly. And that's why I think this is a statement game, because every single facet of our team is going to be tested in this game. Our offense is going to be tested by the defense because they're no Legion of Boom anymore. I mean, let's get that straight. But like you just said, something always clicks for Seattle. Always.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense always clicks somehow. Whether it might be in the secondary, because their secondary was a little weak last season, but they still got the job done. They still got it done. Their front on the defense. I mean, you got Jadavion, dude. That counts as two people in
Well,
my
if he
opinion.
comes back.
Well, if he comes back, that's true. But their defense, their defensive line is always stout in my opinion. And then, in my opinion, you got arguably the best linebacker in the NFL, Bobby Wagner. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my lord, that guy does everything. So the offense is going to be tested in every facet. Then you go to the other side. Our defense is going to be tested. You got Chris Carson. You got Rashad Penny. You got
DK Metcalf.
You got DK Metcalf. You got, in my opinion, the biggest atrocity that's been happening in the NFL. You got an MVP in Russell Wilson. I think it's ridiculous he hasn't won an MVP, but that's another conversation. But you got Russell Wilson, you got DK Metcalf, you got that running game. You got a pretty decent offensive line. This game is going to be that game where everyone's going to look at it and be like, all right, are these new Cowboys it? Or are we just going to fall in the same path that always happens where, we show up for one game, we technically show up for that Falcons game like we talked about, but it was a minimal loss, and then you go to this game. It's going to be a very important game. This is my statement game already.
For sure. I think they win this game. I think you would agree with me on that one.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is definitely there is a strong chance that they lose this game because it's on the road.
100%.
It's a tough opponent. I say it's more of just how they react to that, because at that point you're 1-2.
Yeah.
And people are going to criticize you. People are going to bash on you for saying, oh, well, you made all these offseason moves and nothing's changed. Oh, it's the same old Jason Garrett type of Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then they're going to freak out. Then they're going to start changing things. That's where the Cowboys, if they lose, they cannot freak out. If they freak out, it's over. It doesn't matter what you do for the rest of the season. It doesn't matter whatsoever. Throw it out the window. Because if you freak out after those two strong opponent losses, then you're done. You're not mentally ready to get it done late in the season. But if you win, I mean, Mike McCarthy's feeling good. That defense is looking good. Dak Prescott, hopefully he's under contract by then. You start to feel a lot more of just that swagger come into play, but not that overconfidence. And I think that's where this is the game. This is a really strong game, a defining game for the Dallas Cowboys very early on in the season, because before the bye week, which is week
10, I believe.
Is it week? I think it's actually week 8, week 9.
Week 8, around there, yeah.
But it's really the back-to-back games against the Falcons and the Seahawks that I think is the toughest test for the Cowboys before the bye week.
Yeah. And so I guess once again, this is going to be a really, really close game. I'm talking like the Falcons game, 28-24, 24-21, 31-28.
Yeah.
Not maybe not that high scoring, but around the 20s.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very close game. It could go win or lose, but I am going to say it's going to be a victory because a statement has to be made. Has to be made.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah. Moving on to week 4?
Yes, week 4.
Go back home, early Sunday game, Cleveland Browns. They host them. And I think it'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
But I don't see how the Cowboys can lose this game.
I agree. I think this game is going to be... So, it's funny because... So we're going to start with the Rams, and like I said, it's going to be a blowout. Then we got these two tough these two tough teams. I feel like this Browns game can be that game where it's all like, okay, we got a couple games under our belts. Let's try to fix some things in this game. You know, like let's throw in some new things. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't work. Because, like you said, there's really no reason they should lose this game. Um, I guess right now, if I were to pick a point in that game of which side of the ball is going to be tested more, it's going to be our defense. Why? Because of what I said in the last podcast. Antonio Callaway, Jarvis Landry, OBJ, Nick Chubb. So I feel like the defensive side is going to be tested more this game, while on the offensive side, this is where they can be like, all right, let's see what we can throw in. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't work for the remainder of the season. Well, or not the remainder, but at least like the next couple games.
I will say no to that because I don't think the Browns are something to sleep on. I ain't saying they're Super Bowl contenders, and I ain't saying that they're going to ultimately upset the Cowboys. But I am a huge fan of what they've done on defense. And Myles Garrett up front, a really strong front seven. You add Grant Delpit to an already structural type of secondary that knows how to get the job done. Their stats, like ranking-wise, they actually, a lot of people don't know that this team is one of the best defenses in the league. Top 10, top 15 in almost every category. And no one talks about it because it's the Browns. They lose, so it doesn't matter the points. It doesn't matter the yards. You lose. And the focus is going to be on their offense because it's Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, OBJ. Like this, it has to work this season before OBJ starts to become a diva and wants to trade. Jarvis Landry's just kind of staying on the sidelines and saying like, all right, it's my time. I'll just let OBJ talk. It's the Brown storylines are going to be like ultimately what hurts them in the situation, but I don't think this is a sleeper type of game where you just say, oh, okay, we can settle down and just see let's try this play. Let's try this. Because like they're going to come at you hard. That's a statement win for them. They're always going to come at you if you're the Dallas Cowboys because it's a statement win. I think their defense is going to show a lot of heart and a lot of effort that the Cowboys may not expect. So I see this as kind of like a Miami Dolphins game from last season, where I said that was probably going to be the toughest game for the Cowboys to win early on in that season because they're just going to expect like, oh, they're just going to bow down to us. We're better than them. Why would we compete against them? And then it took them 3 quarters to say, oh, we got to compete. Oh, we got to try now. Because if it wasn't for that 4th quarter, the Cowboys would have lost that game. And if they didn't finish that game, they would have lost that game, in my opinion. So I see this happening again.
So it's a good point, and I do agree with most of your points. However, the reason why I say that this is probably a good test game, right now, we don't know how Kevin Stefanski is going to run things.
Yeah.
We don't know how they're going to start off the season. And I think it's very well known that, there are some cases that, obviously like a coach clicks right away, like Matt LaFleur with the Packers this past season as the best example. But, it's been NFL history that when a team has a new head coach, they struggle a little bit. The first couple games of the seasons, they're not that they don't want to show their best. Obviously, they're trying to show that they can win with their new head coach. But there's one side and then there's another side that they're trying to mesh. They're trying to mesh together to make sure that okay, this is the new system. This is what we got now. And I feel like at that point of the season, week 4, they might not have it yet, or maybe they do. I don't know, but I'm gonna lean more towards on the fact that they're probably not gonna have it yet, and that's why I feel like this game is gonna be a game where we can probably pull out some things.
Yeah. One final point to that. For Kevin Stefanski to come from Minnesota and to be an offense that's probably very similar to what he's going to have in Cleveland, because you have a power back in Dalvin Cook, and then now you have it in Nick Chubb. You have a more athletic quarterback in Baker Mayfield. You have a highly talented wide receiver core
Sir.
that probably looks better on paper in Cleveland than it did in Minnesota. And you also had a really good defense that you can rely on the other side. So if you're talking about like trying to find that identity, trying to find that system that works, I think it honestly is the best thing for Kevin to move on to Cleveland because it actually is pretty close to what he had in Minnesota. And they were successful for many years in Minnesota with that offense. And for him to go to Cleveland, yeah, it's more of just the mental part of it rather than the physical part of it and on paper. And it may take a little bit of time to figure that out. But in week 4, I wouldn't be surprised if they just come out guns blazing and say, Nick Chubb's going to run all over you because he's been doing it against almost every team. And he's probably going to continue that in the first 3 weeks of the season. So if the Cowboys still haven't figured out how to stop the run, somehow, Nick Chubb's going to run all over them.
Yeah, that's true. I can see that.
I think it comes down to the wire, honestly. I really think that, especially at home, because I like the Cowboys more on the road because they're more locked in than they are at home.
It's been statistically proven. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's going to be a win. I think we're going to be 3-1 after this game.
Yeah.
So 3-1. Then the next game.
First NFC East opponent, New York Giants.
Blowout.
Who, honestly, you're not going to agree with me on this, and a lot of people don't, but I think is the sleeper team in the NFC.
Really?
Yes.
The Giants.
Yes.
Okay. I want to hear why.
Their talent, their players, depth chart roster wise, is more impressive than people give credit to. I mean, offensively, of course, you're going to have Saquon Barkley, who you're going to run your offense through. Improved offensive line, for sure.
Yes.
That may take some time. A great wide receiver and tight end core. It's defensively where I think a lot of people don't give them enough credit. They did acquire Blake Martinez. They still have the deal that they made last season in Leonard Williams, who you still want to see more, and I'm still waiting for that moment for it to really click for him because it didn't work in New York still with the Giants, and he didn't have to move far, but he hasn't done much with the Giants either. But you still got Dexter Lawrence. You still got Blake Martinez, an improved secondary. Like I said in the last podcast, Xavier McKinney that they picked up in the second round, the steal of the draft for me. And you still got Jabril Peppers, DeAndre Baker, James Bradbury, who are solid guys.
Didn't DeAndre Baker get arrested?
Does that matter?
Well, good point. Good point.
As long as he's on the field.
I mean, but will he be there?
Look, man, I'm saying. That's why it was important to get Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point.
I think that's more important than just having just one guy, like in your corner position, lost at that situation because your front is so good at rushing the quarterback. So you can kind of make up and balance that out for not having a corner like Baker. But acquiring McKinney and having Jabril Peppers that is only gaining more experience as he goes with a really fun offense that is going to be interesting to watch. I'm not going to say this is a blowout whatsoever. I honestly think that with the NFC East opponents, with the Eagles and the Giants, they'll go 1-1. The NFC East is always unpredictable, dude. Like, it's never going to be easy.
Very true.
No matter whose roster is better, like, you could say the Eagles' roster is better. I still think that the Eagles will win one and they'll lose one. The Giants, they'll win one, they'll lose one.
Yeah.
And the Redskins is the only team that I think the Cowboys should beat twice. And they will beat them twice. But as far as the Giants, at home with the Cowboys, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if the Cowboys lose this.
So you made a lot of good points. And a lot of them I can agree with because, you're right. They did add a lot of, depth and talent in general to the roster. But there's just something about the Giants. There's always something about the Giants where no matter what, they always mess it up somehow. Always. Always, always, always. Last season, I think it was the Monday night game where it was already I believe 2 minutes left in the second quarter. It was about to be halftime. They were up 12-0 or like 14-0 or something like that. And they were locking us down hard because of the points you made. Their defensive line was stout. They started to get better with their secondary, But it always happens. It always happens. The second half of that game, what happened? We ended up blowing them out. I think the final score was what, like 20, 28, 14, 27,
What,
12
the
or
cat
something
game?
like that. Yeah, the cat game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I will say that game is just should not be remembered because that's more on the Cowboys not performing at all in the first half, and they just said, "Oh, okay, we actually got to try now in the second half." The Giants were awful last year. I mean, awful.
They were.
They still like were clinging on to Eli Manning, which is ridiculous, and their defense was just nowhere to be seen. They didn't know what they had. I think now, plus they just didn't have a coaching staff. Like they were just awful.
That's true.
So I think it's more of their coaching staff this year that will ultimately determine whether or not they are successful, because we just don't know what Joe Judge is going to do. He comes from he comes from the Patriots, so I kind of have more of belief in guys like that, even though the tree hasn't been good for Bill Belichick. I honestly think that what he did with the special teams last year, the best special teams group in all the NFL was the Patriots last year, in my opinion. He also worked with the wide receivers who weren't the best, but it's just the whole system in general that didn't work. And you're reading some articles saying like he's going to use what he has rather than the system that it was in place in New England, where it was just like, this is the system, make it work. He's going to say, this is what we had, what's the best opportunity. And if it changes week by week, then we're going to change it week by week. So I think I have more of a concern of Jason Garrett being the offensive coordinator rather than anything else.
You know what? That is true. I honestly forgot about that. That's very, very true.
So it's up to them really to determine how far this Giants team goes. It's the NFC East, so they're going to be competitive, but by no means is this going to be an easy game for the Cowboys.
So yeah, I guess that is true. I did forget about the whole Jason Garrett thing. That is actually going to be a huge factor in this game. So I guess in that retrospect, do they win? Yes.
I think yes.
Yes.
They should.
I think? Yeah, they should. Do I think it's going to be a blowout? In my opinion, I think it could. I think it could be, but more realistically, I have to lean with you that it probably will be a closer game.
Yeah,
but
I'd say a 3-point game.
I think it could be a blowout, though. I really do think it can be.
I don't know about that one. We'll agree to disagree on that one.
We'll agree to disagree. This next game, though.
I'm really excited for this next game. Monday night. I remember the last time the Cardinals played the Cowboys on Monday night. Remember that game? It was the week where they were talking about the kneeling during the national anthem. It was this whole debacle. It was not focused on the game whatsoever. It was about what they're going to do before the game. So the Cowboys weren't focused, and it was Dak Prescott who ultimately won them that game because he did everything. It was that touchdown where he had to jump over that guy, he got hit, flipped, and then that beautiful throw off like his like back foot to Bryce Butler in the end zone.
Bryce Butler,
dude,
yes sir.
That to me was like, oh, Dak Prescott's legit. Like that's legit. Yeah. He's gonna put his team on the back.
Yeah.
But this game, Monday night again against the Cardinals at home, man, am I excited to see what these two offenses can do against each other. Dude. Honestly, I'm leaning toward an upset here.
100%. I honestly don't think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a for sure upset. I think that this is going to be so how we were talking about how like our statement game was going to be the Seahawks. This is going to I don't know the Cardinals season, so I might have to relax on this point. But I think this is going to be their statement game.
Yeah.
Like this,
it was like in the 2 years ago against the Cowboys. It was that game that was going to make their season. If they would have won that game, oh man, that team would have had some confidence to go into the NFC West matchups and say we can bang with you guys.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be really really good. However, it is going to come out with a loss for the Cowboys. I think this is going to be their first upset of the season. They're going to come out of this game. I wouldn't say they're going to come out of this game like defeated with like with their heads low and all that. But I think if anything, this is going to be a good game to like bring them back to earth,
Yeah.
because like, let's be real. Everybody clowns on the Cardinals, the Cardinals are a team right now that people clown, but with their draft, with what I was talking about the other day, they now have the best receiver in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins. They're a sleeper team. They are going to do big things this season. And I really do think that, I really think that they are going to lose this game.
Dude, I can't be mad because you got the most handsome head coach in the NFL. Daddy Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury. What a man. Yeah.
Man crush. I mean, like, if you want a Ryan Gosling that knows football, that's it. And I'm okay with losing to that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I think this game, but what I will say though, I think this game will be close. It will.
It'll be fun.
It's going to be a close, fun game, but we're coming out with an L. I think this is going to be that game for the Cowboys where they're going to be like, oh, okay, like the Cardinals are real. We need to take a step back and look at something.
I wouldn't be mad if they lose. I really wouldn't. That's one team where I'm like, dude, you don't know what they're going to fucking do. They're just going to come out, and Kyler Murray's going to – he's playing at home, basically. He lives in this area. Mm-hmm. He loves being in this area. This is where he balled out in high school.
Yeah.
And he was somewhat close to home in college. So for him to come back home and kind of prove everyone that he still got it after all these years, and to do it in front of his family, his friends, I think honestly, man, this can be a really good game for the Cardinals, and I'm excited to see it. I'd honestly be happier to see the Cardinals win, to be honest. I'm being honest. I would love to see them get a good win.
And also, what I do want to see come out of this game, I want to see that bad man, Isaiah Simmons. Ooh, I want to see what he can do.
On prime time, make some plays.
I want to see it.
Yes, dude. Yes. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So for sure, L.
Yeah. So moving on to some back-to-back weeks for NFC East opponents. Pretty simple here. They're going to go on the road to battle the Washington Redskins. Mm-hmm. I like what the Redskins are doing. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Dwayne Haskins. I'm a Buckeye bias here.
I agree with you. Dwayne Haskins is going to be good.
Their coaching staff is growing. Jack Del Rio, their defensive coordinator, is an amazing pickup. I love that more than their head coach pickup in Ron Rivera. It's going to take some time to really develop this. They're really good defensively. I mean, they got Chase Young, number 1 overall draft pick. They're gonna make some waves. They're gonna make some noise in not only the NFC East but in the NFL. But I think that it's too early on to say that they can upset the Cowboys, that they can make the moves to really win the NFC East. So I think this is a good, not great performance out of the Cowboys, but it's maybe a 2-possession game that they ultimately win.
No, it's a very fair point. Right now, I think that the Redskins are in a position where they're in a position right now where like they're kind of getting fed. It's like, all right, we gave you Ron Rivera, we gave you Jack Del Rio, we gave you Dwayne Haskins 2 years. Well, no, a year ago.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah, a year ago. We gave you Chase Young. You got Terry McLaurin. Mm-hmm. I mean, these guys, they got talent. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what's going to happen in this game? Cowboys are going to win, obviously, in my opinion. However, I think the Redskins are going to use this game to gauge how they're going to play in the NFC East.
Yeah, I think this will be a good test for them.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of what the Cowboys do to kind of weather the storm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of it.
Yeah, but I think for sure that it's I agree with you that it isn't going to be about a 2-possession game. It's a fair score. Something like maybe like 24-14 or like
20,
or like 20 28 or I could even see maybe even like 28-20. Like maybe just like a one possession game for some whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I think I guess one point I will have to make about the Redskins is that, at least in my opinion, this season for them is going to ride on how they develop Dwayne Haskins.
They have
Because
to develop him. There's
because
so much work to be done,
Mhm.
but if he gets to a certain level of his play, he's going to be one of the most like exciting quarterbacks to watch in the NFL.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because Jesus Christ, how the hell do you tell a starting quarterback, "Hey man, you're starting this week." Like what, 2 days
2 days,
before?
yeah.
Remember that?
Same thing they did with Josh Rosen against the Cowboys.
That's
You cannot do
ridiculous.
that.
You can't. So you're making this kid that has promise look awful. He looked bad that game. He looked bad that game. He looked bad every other game of the season. And that's not fair because he's a great quarterback in general. So I think that Ron Rivera is going to be spending a lot of time with Dwayne Haskins this season. And whatever happens in that time is going to, I basically, in the end, it's going to develop their season for either good or bad, whatever happens.
You shouldn't expect like a winning season out of the Redskins.
No.
If you can go 6-10, 5-11, I'd say that's a good progression that will ultimately help you in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So what are we at right now? We're 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-2.
Well, it's about to be 5-3, in my opinion.
Yes.
They're traveling to Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playgrounds where I spent most of my days. No?
No, I'm not going to finish it just because I didn't watch a lot of that show back in the day. So.
Eagles, ultimately, like the matchup that everybody wants to watch in the NFC East because it's the two best teams in there. Like I said, the Cowboys are going to lose one game to the Eagles. They're going to win one. And I think on the road, going against the Eagles is going to catch them off guard. They're not going to be ready for it. Sunday night game, too, so that'll be fun. I just think this will be the game that they will lose, and then they win the next matchup to kind of even it up.
Agreed. I think they are going to lose this game, but the Eagles are weird, man.
They are.
They're really weird because just as let's take last season for example, we thrashed them at home. The final score was 37-10. It wasn't close at all. But then you go to the winner-take-all game basically at the end, and we didn't show up. But they did, and they played good. Granted, they didn't put up 30 points, but they played good.
I mean, that was the Cowboys' game to win.
It was.
It doesn't matter how the Eagles played. That was the Cowboys' game to win. They had to win that game.
It's aggravating to think about. However, but still, they played good enough, to beat us. And
it's not much.
The Eagles are weird, man. I don't know, but I do agree that this game is going to be a loss just because we are playing Philadelphia. Carson Wentz loves that crowd. He loves to play behind that crowd. I said on the other podcast that Miles Sanders, he's a sleeper.
Yeah, they get talent at that running back position, but they just don't know how to use it.
Yeah. However, what I will say though, I really do think that those wide receivers.
Ooh, those wide receivers they got in the draft.
Those wide receivers, that's a little scary. It's a little scary, and I think if anything, those wide receivers is going to be a big problem. And that's why we're probably going to lose this game because we don't maybe by that point in the season, our corners will be developed to probably play good enough to stop them. But I could honestly see the wide receivers like putting up the majority of the points in that game for the Eagles.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And it's not going to be your typical like Alshon Jeffrey. It may involve Marquise Goodwin, who they got in free agency. Great pickup by them.
Extremely good pickup.
But honestly, Jalen Rager is phenomenal. He's going to be their number one guy. But it's the speedy guys that are going to kill the Cowboys most likely in this game, especially at home. They're going to go deep. They're going to go quick. And they're going to do it early with Deshaun Jackson if he's healthy.
If
and
he's
his body
healthy.
doesn't break down like it did last season. But John Hightower, man, when I was doing film on him, John Hightower can be the next Deshaun Watson before even Deshaun Jackson. What did I say? Watson? My bad.
It wasn't, yeah.
He can be Deshaun Jackson before even Deshaun Jackson leaves Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That man is speed. He is speed. And if you don't take care of him, who's going to be maybe their third or fourth option, Carson Wentz is going to find him. And he's going to find him often. So if you don't take care of John Hightower or Deshaun Jackson in this game, which I don't think they do, it's going to catch them off guard. That's why I think the Eagles win that game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the receiving core is going to be a big problem.
Yeah. So L there. Lost.
Yeah,
there.
so we are I'm sorry. One more game.
One more game before the bye week. And this is a good game to go into the bye week with. I do think that the Steelers are going to regress this season. I'm not a huge believer in what Big Ben can do this next season. It's obvious. You know, Mike Tomlin just knows how to handle this team, knows how to get the best out of them late in the season.
Yeah.
But Big Ben's body is giving up on him, and I don't see him either being healthy or being at a high level playing ability by the time week 9, week 10 comes around.
Yeah.
And their defense still has a lot to work with. I do like their secondary.
Yeah.
But, up front, they probably won't be able to rush the quarterback in this game. They probably won't be able to stop Tony Pollard or Ezekiel Elliott. And they're probably going to have a lot of issues handling CeeDee Lamb. So at home for the Cowboys, I think this is a good, easy win. I kind of say that with like a kind of a hesitation because there's no easy wins in the NFL. I don't see this being a hard win for the Cowboys or being a close game.
Yeah, so you basically hit on all the points I was going to say. Just because Big Ben is he's not reliable anymore. He's not. And it's sad to say because Big Ben is, he's one of the GOATs, like he's a very respectable, player in the NFL. But Big Ben, and then you got James Conner. And James Conner's a wild card in my opinion. Because there's some games where James Conner looks like he's like the second coming
of Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, exactly. He's the second coming of Le'Veon Bell. But then you got other games where, granted, don't get me wrong, I understand that the running back position is based on skill, but it's also based on that line. And right now, the Steelers don't have that good of a line, in my opinion. They don't. So there's some James Conner just either can't get stuff going because of the line, or just in general he can't because he's getting stuffed right away. So, and then also not to mention that listen, I love my man Juju. Juju's a good receiver.
Love that man.
I love him, but hopefully, like I said previously, by this time in the season, our cornerbacks will be somewhat developed. That Juju should be an easy cover. He should be an easy cover. Now, I'm not saying that he's gonna be like held for one reception for 5 yards. No, Juju will catch balls in that game, and he'll put up some pretty good numbers. But
it won't be the deciding factor.
Yeah, he should be an easy cover that game, and I think this is going to be a game that we win because the Steelers are they just lack that offensive power. And it's really weird to say because we used to say the opposite about the Steelers.
The big three.
Yeah, where their offensive power was amazing while everybody complained about their defense.
Yeah.
But now, this past year, it flipped. So I do agree that their defense could give us a little run for our money, but it's going to be that offense that's going to ruin that game for them. So I agree that it is going to be a win. However, I will say that it is probably going to be a little more like maybe 3 possession game.
There's going to be a lot of points scored. in my
Well,
opinion.
on our part,
And yeah,
because
in our part.
I really don't see the Steelers putting up like 25 on us.
Ooh,
I don't.
no.
I don't.
Juju struggled a lot last year with double teams, with getting a lot more of the attention now that Antonio Brown was gone. They did acquire some wide receivers in the draft.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I don't think that's going to make a huge difference on Juju's performance. I hope he has a good season, but I just don't expect it around this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So go into the bye week. Um,
6-3.
Look, man, like for anyone to expect like 16-0, 15-1, even 13-3, I think
You're
that's just ridiculous to think about in the NFL
you're
when it's so
sadly
competitive.
mistaken. Yeah.
It's so tough to do that, and they're on the right track. This is what I would assume the Cowboys would be doing. Like
Mhm.
like we're so used to 4-4, 5-5, like 500 at best. So
Mhm.
anything above that, as long as you win your division, that's all that fucking matters. Win your
Yeah.
division, and you are in control of your destiny
Yeah.
because you're in the wild card. You go the whole season going 500. That's on you. You don't deserve to make the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
If you're
No,
above 500, you're 2 or 3 games above 500. You're in a good spot, and that's what the Cowboys are, in our opinion.
and even right now, like, our bye is literally in the middle of the season, so
It's a good
well,
buy.
it's a good buy. It's gonna be week 10, so a week 10 buy. So it's a little bit after the halfway point of the season, but to be 6-3 at week 10, I mean, that's pretty damn good in my opinion.
Yeah, it sets you up
uh
very nicely for the tougher part of your season.
yeah, and I mean, this second half, there's 3 games that I'm looking at right
Yeah, it's
now that
rough.
are,
It's rough.
it's a little rough. So
So it starts off with their first game off the bye, going to Minnesota at
mhm.
U.S. Bank Stadium. Beautiful stadium, by the way.
Beautiful stadium, my lord. Yeah.
Against the Vikings, who I would say they have something to prove this season.
Hmm.
They couldn't get it done against the Packers.
Yeah.
That was the one team they could not beat,
Hmm.
and they finally got over the hump of Kirk Cousins not being a clutch player, beating the Saints in New Orleans playoff
Yeah.
time. It's a good thing to kind of get off your chest, get off like that weight off your shoulders,
Hmm.
and I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I see maybe an ugly game, to be honest, like it was in 2016 against
Yeah.
Minnesota at the same location.
Hmm.
I see it being an ugly game, kind of going off the bye, a little bit of rust, or you just kind of need a little bit more to get going. Uh, Maybe like a low scoring game, to be honest. I don't expect much out of these offenses um, in this part of the season. So I think the Cowboys squeeze it out, but I think Minnesota puts up a really good fight.
So I'm gonna go back to what I said in the other podcast that we had. I really don't think Minnesota's gonna do much this season. I don't. I think they're gonna regress significantly, and I think this is gonna be a game where the Cowboys come out of bye, and it's gonna be like a mini statement where like they come out of bye and it's like, okay, like we're gonna win this game, let's keep going. You know, uh, I think this game is. I agree that it's probably not gonna be like a shootout. It's not gonna be a blowout. It's probably gonna be like like a medium scoring game, maybe like 2017 or like 21-14 or 21-10 or something like that. But I think the Cowboys are gonna win this game. There's no doubt in my mind. Also because man, last year that game hurt.
That was a
That
terrible
game
game.
hurt. That game hurt, and I bet you all the money in the world that the players that were here that are still in the roster from last season, and even like even the new guys, because like they everybody watches the Cowboys, dude. Let's be real. Everybody watches the Cowboys, and I bet you a lot of players saw that game. So now that they're on the Cowboys, like they saw that game, they'd be like, all right, like now I'm here, I can make a difference. So this game they have a chip on their shoulder because they want to beat them because of what last year. So I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think there's no doubt in my mind that that they're not going to lose this game. So, yeah, 7-3 to start off the
Hmm.
second second half of their season.
Yeah, the last two games against the Vikings really kind of burdened my confidence on the Cowboys against this team because they're always so competitive. They match up very well. They always match up very well. So I think they squeeze it out, but it's definitely gonna be a tough game for them. Thanksgiving game, Redskins again. We just talked about it. I don't think we should talk about it some more.
No,
it's Thanksgiving too, so they come out to play.
Yeah, always big time. So.
It's the next week, which is probably the toughest game of the season for the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. Thursday night football against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
There is no chance. I tell you, there is no way the Cowboys win this game.
It's kind of sad that it's really obvious that they're not going to win this game. I think the biggest problem that I see in this game with the Cowboys is our defense. Because one, you got Mark Ingram, you got J.K. Dobbins, and now big steal. We were talking about this earlier, and now, not even to mention Lamar Jackson, dude. That middle of the field on our defense, torched.
Struggle.
We are going to get torched, and it's not even close. Like, I don't see someone on the Cowboys that's going to be able to stop what the Ravens are going to do. Because look, you got Jalen Smith. He's speedy, and I get it. He can maybe come up with some plays behind the line because he's good at that. But I mean, Clinton Dix, Xavier Woods, they're going to get torched. I'm sorry. I like
got to think about, like, I really see Lamar Jackson somewhat regressing from what he did last season. He's not going to have those, like, star-studded plays that he did. He still has the ability to do it. Don't get me wrong. But I think this season, I would love to see him be more of a pocket passer. I would like a more balance of him using his legs and using that running game to his advantage, but also improving that arm. He has an arm. No doubt in my mind, he has an arm. He just hasn't given it his all yet. Hollywood Brown getting his second season in, he's going to be better. You got Mark Andrews, who was one of the most productive tight ends in the league last season. The Cowboys struggle every time with a tight end because they always have a mismatch.
Jesus Christ, I know.
It doesn't make sense to me how you put Jeff Heath on a tight end every single season.
How many times did I text you throughout the season of my
during the game?
Jeff Heath. How many times did I text you?
It was consistently Jeff Heath on a guy twice his size.
It's ridiculous.
And he got burned. And I don't know what they're gonna do this season about it. But Mark Andrews is just a mismatch for everybody. There's no guy that's going to be that size when your linebackers are going to have to worry about QB spying or focusing on Lamar Jackson and that running game. They're not going to be focused on Mark Andrews. So there's got to be a corner, there's got to be a safety that's worried about Mark Andrews, and that's just going to hurt you even more.
So that's what I was saying, that the middle of the field, we're going to get torched. 4-1.
There's going to be too much on the field to worry about.
Yeah. You got Hollywood Brown probably running like 5 yards past whoever he's covering.
Just send him on go routes.
And then not even to mention I remember they always talked about it last season. That 3 tight end formation that the Ravens use a lot. Oh, dude, every single time they used it, big play. Always. Always a big play. That formation is going to kill us. It is going to just destroy our defense. And I really, as of right now, like you're saying, I don't know what they could do. You have 3 tight ends on the field, so you only have 1 receiver. That receiver is more than likely going to be Hollywood Brown. What do you do? How are you going to guess if they're going to go for a pass or if they're going to go for a run? You don't know because it's the Ravens. They did it last season the whole entire time. You don't know. And it's going to be so hard because you can either throw to Mark Andrews, you can either give it to Mark Ingram in the back, or who knows? They might do that pistol formation that they do all the time with Lamar Jackson, and do a sweep
option
route.
Plays,
yeah, an option. It's gonna be hell.
It's gonna be way too much for And this is not a discredit to the Cowboys. This is just everybody in the league.
Yeah,
Like
it's
no
everybody.
one stopped it last season until they reached the playoffs, and the Titans just ran all over them.
Mhm.
So that's why. I mean, they had Derrick Henry, but you got to think that Baltimore is just the favorites
Yeah.
in the AFC alongside the Chiefs.
Yeah,
But
you
they
just
have the experience now, and honestly, they didn't lose much, and they gained a lot too.
yeah, yeah they did.
So I think it's just going to be a bad game for the Cowboys, and it's going to be a rough season for anybody who goes against the Ravens because
Big time.
big trust, big trust,
Big trust,
big
big
trust,
trust,
big trust.
100%.
It gets a
So-
little easier the next week. We
Yes.
get to see Joe Burrow. I love it. I
Yeah.
want to see my boy,
Mhm.
but you know, it's Cincinnati, man. It's gonna take more than half a season to be a contender in the AFC and to put up a big fight against the Dallas Cowboys. So
Yeah.
it's a road game for the Cowboys, but I think it's an easy win for them.
It is an easy win. I really don't see the Bengals doing much. I mean, even if, if my man AJ Green is still healthy by that point of the season, which I really hope he is because I love him. I think if he were to stay healthy all these years, he would be on that conversation as one of the best receivers in the league. But I just don't see how the Bengals could even come remotely close to beating us. I don't.
They don't have a defense.
They don't
They
have a
don't
defense.
have. They're offensive minded coaching, and they don't have a defense.
I don't see it. I just don't. I think we're gonna run all over them. I think we're gonna pass all over them.
It'll be a forgettable game because of how easy it'll be.
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
Yeah, it's an easy game to call. So I think we're gonna be 8-4 by that point.
I don't care if the schedule says fuck you. You have an easy team. Go against the guys that went to the Super Bowl in the 49ers.
Yeah, so now we're talking about the 49ers. And
Sunday night,
man,
late in
that's a
December.
good game.
You know the Cowboys don't like playing December.
They don't. However, at least we're playing in Arlington in warm because,
I think that's worse.
well,
I think that's ultimately worse.
cold weather Cowboys is garbage.
Well,
They do not play good in cold weather.
well, even if they played in California, it wouldn't be that cold. It'd be about the same as it would be in Texas.
No, that's true.
But
So-
what I like about playing on the road against the 49ers is that there's a lot of Cowboys fans.
There is.
So
There
it gives
really
you
is.
just the initial battle win of saying there's more Cowboys fans here than there is 49ers fans. So that gives you a little bit of confidence of saying we don't have to worry about our snaps. We don't have to worry about that being on the road. So that gives you a little bit of advantage before the game even starts.
Mhm.
I honestly think this is going to be a ugly game. Remember the Redskins and 49ers game last year?
Yes.
That's how I feel this will be.
Mm,
This will not be a fun game to watch. This will not be a fun game to attend. And that's why the Cowboys fans will not like this. And it'll be
So-
silent.
So I don't think it's going to be a blowout on the 49ers part. I think it's going to be a good game. But the thing that I think of right away with the 49ers is that they're practically the same team. I think the biggest loss they have was they lost to Forrest Buckner to the Colts.
Yeah.
And that's a really big loss because he was a big part of that D line that was just monstrous last season, But they didn't really lose anybody else.
Yeah, but you say that they lose Buckner, but it takes a village to have that type of defense. It ain't just Buckner.
It's true. It's true, but they didn't lose anybody else. So that defense is still stout.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not even to mention, you lose Marquise Goodwin, but then you got that. I forgot his name because he has a very unique name. But that wide receiver out of Arizona State, I think Brandon Ayuk is that
Did
his
they
name?
pick up Brandon Ayuk?
I believe so. Yeah, he was their second pick in the first. Or no. Was it their second or first?
Oh, they did.
Yes.
I
So
forgot about that.
So you lose Marquise Goodwin, but you got Brandon Ayuk. Dude, the 49ers are the same. They're the same team.
That's an L. That's an L.
It's going to be an L. I do agree with you. But I do think that the Cowboys can put up a good fight just because we do have the receiving core to maybe get through their defense. We have, well, I'm not going to compete between offensive line and defensive line because that's obviously going to be a lost battle. But I think we will put up some points. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a loss.
No. I mean, the ultimate, like, finish we both agree on, but the way we get there is going to be completely different. They're going to go through mud. They're going to go through just a fucking tornado of 49ers. Yeah. And you think they're just going to, like, they're going to get outpaced. They're going to get outran by the 49ers. No, I think this is going to be, they're going to come out and say, shit. Like that. It's the game that we always have every year as a Cowboys fan where we're like, what the fuck was that? I mean, like, that was just a clusterfuck.
Well, technically, we're going to have 2 games in 3 weeks that are going to be like that with these 49ers and the Ravens.
You expect it out of the Ravens.
Yeah.
You expect it out of the Ravens. Like, the 49ers and the Cowboys rivalry, it's going to be competitive. It's just going to be... Like, I don't think the Ravens game is close at all. I do think the 49ers game is close, but in a bad way. Like, a really bad way.
I think we will be able to do something, but it's just not going to be enough because those 49ers are just crazy.
Just complete, man. They're just a complete team.
Yeah, for sure.
They're on their high horse, and they're not looking back.
For sure.
Yeah. So then we finish it off with 2 NFC East games. One right after Christmas on December 27th with the Philadelphia Eagles. Cowboys play at home. I think that's the game they do win. Just because...
Yeah.
It's just typical what they do.
It's a typical like seesaw with the Cowboys and the Eagles. It's like it's 1-1. It's simple. It is what it is. Usually the home team wins. So yeah, we already talked about what the Eagles. However, one point that I will make, it all relies on how healthy Carson Wentz is throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's their whole season.
It all relies on that because they don't got Nick Foles anymore.
But dude, they got Jalen Hurts.
They do.
He might as well be the top 10 in the NFL.
Okay, but let me ask you this question though: do you think the Eagles have the system for Jalen Hurts?
It fits the same system as Carson Wentz.
But Jalen Hurts isn't a pocket passer. He likes to run around as well. Carson
likes to use his legs too. That's what got him hurt in the first place.
But he scrambles more than he runs. That's my point.
No, so Jalen can throw.
No. I mean that Carson Wentz would use his legs to evade. I'm saying that Jalen Hurts uses his legs to run positively.
Yeah, it's just a different way of how you finish. Whether you roll out and you just get the little out route and the little like dump pass to gain a couple, or you do the same thing with Jalen Hurts and he runs out of bounds for 4 or 5 yards. It's the same result. It's just a different way of getting there.
I don't know. I really do think that this game is going to be depending on what happens with Carson Wentz. But either way, it is going to be a W just because we are at home, and that's how it is with the Eagles apparently. Yeah. So,
so honestly, with the Giants game earlier in the season, I think at that point they had solidified like a playoff spot, and they know that they're making it to the playoffs, and really not much will change. So either they don't start everybody in the final game of the season, or they just kind of half-ass it. So I think in the final game of the season against the Giants, where they go to MetLife Stadium, I think they lose this game.
Well, okay, so you're talking about it in the retrospect that we already clinch a playoff spot.
You got the 2 wins against the Redskins. You have the 1 loss to the Eagles, but you also have the 1 win, so you made up for it. You're probably going to have the better record overall than the Eagles. So I think at that point you had clinched something.
So you don't think it's...
Unless the last game is for home field advantage, which I don't think will happen, what's the point of starting?
Yeah, because right now we're going into this game 10-5. from what we've said.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming to this game 10-5. Do you think the Eagles are gonna be okay? Technically, like 9-6, or at this point, or like 8-8. Well, I mean, what would you be with 8 wins? You would be
What, at the end of the season?
yeah, you would
You'll be
be
8-7 at that point.
8-7. Yes. So do you think they'd be that the Eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Either that
okay.
or just above 500.
Okay. So then the Cowboys would win. It's because I don't know, man. Because it really depends on how the Eagles play, because they're really our only competition in this division. So
it's been like this for years. It's where the Eagles look really good, and I have them going 12-4, and then they go like 9-7, 8-8, and you're just kind of like, well, what's changed? What's changed for the Eagles?
So the reason why I'm struggling with what to pick for this game is because of what you said. If for sure we already have this division locked down, we're probably going to lose this game because of the same scenario that we did in 2016 with the Eagles game.
Yeah.
Where like we benched everybody. Yeah. But if the Eagles are right on our heels and they can, maybe nip and I wouldn't say steal it, because we'd probably end up becoming a wild card, because that always happens with the NFC apparently. I don't know. Like, do you get where I'm coming from? It's a little hard.
Well, it's ultimately either you get a wild card. There's going to be 2 NFC East teams in there.
Yeah, because it really just depends. It depends on how the Eagles play this season.
Yeah.
If we already are at the point where we're 10-5 and that's it, okay, yeah, we're probably going to lose this game because of the bench. But if the Eagles are right on our heels, we're going to win this game because we have to, and play our starters against the Giants.
So you say that because it was the same argument last year. It's like, oh, if it comes down to it, the Cowboys win. And then it was just fucking awful.
Well,
it was just stupid.
The end of last season.
Like, does it make sense to where the Eagles are going to be on the heels of the Cowboys and it comes down to the last game because it's been like that for like 3 straight seasons? Well, guess what? That's exactly what the Cowboys would probably need in order to get over that hump mentally of saying, oh, no, not this again. Like, they can finally be like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's prove ourselves. Maybe that's the best case scenario for the Cowboys, because maybe I want them to feel that pressure.
Because you always want... I personally think it's always good to end the season off with a W. So I guess for the purpose of what we're doing, if I had to choose a scenario, I'm going to say that the Cowboys are going to probably be forced to win this game. Just because it's been historical, data that the Eagles are always right on our heels. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say
both teams shit the bed.
Or both shit the bed. So, but like I said, for the purpose of this scenario, I'm going to pick that we are going to win this game because we have to. So for me, I'm ending off our season at 11-5.
That's why I initially had it at, but I think the Arizona Cardinals game is a wild card. Mm-hmm. And with that final loss at the end of the season, because I do think still they make the playoffs, I think 10-6.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment.
But I think that's still a really good way of finishing off the season where you still make the playoffs. You're in a really good spot. You know what your faults are. You know what your strengths are. And you don't have to go 16-0 to prove anything, because you can get kicked out in week 1 or in round 1 of the playoffs. Look at the Ravens. Yeah. They fucking might as well have gone undefeated. They were the best team in the NFL. Yeah. Doesn't mean shit.
They still got knocked out by Derrick Henry. Yeah. Not the Titans, Derrick Henry.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Titans can make it to the fucking AFC Championship, and what? They went around the same record as what we're expecting for the Cowboys?
They went 9-7. Wow.
No, it doesn't fucking matter as long as you make the playoffs.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's still a good way to end the season. It's a... What's a good word to describe this? It's a very respectable and a very unbiased way of looking at it. Is that we think this Cowboys team is good. We think this team is going to make the playoffs, but we're not saying they're going to blow it out of the water.
Absolutely not. No.
So I think at the end of the day, we're kind of just in disagreement of how this season will end. because I think if they can win one playoff game and make it to the NFC Championship, that's a dub. That for me is enough. But you think it's Super Bowl or bust? I think it's a little too early to say that.
So here's the reason why I've been saying that, because I get your point. It's a very fair point. NFC Championship would be a victory for these Cowboys because for obvious reasons.
Make it there.
Yeah, at least they make it for obvious reasons. But dude, I just don't feel like there's an excuse. There's no excuse. If you want to make an excuse, fine. First year coaching staff.
That's my excuse.
And that's
it's
a fair
so
excuse.
hard to do it in your first year.
It's a fair excuse. But dude, I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't sit here and say that these boys are gonna be, like they're gonna make it to the playoffs and then they're gonna bow out and then it's gonna be like, oh well, okay, another season. Like, no, the talent on this team is just too damn good. I've been saying it, and like you just said right now, it's Super Bowl or bust. It's really Super Bowl or bust for this season.
Mm-hmm. And my argument, saying like first year with the head coach, is a little. Yeah, you can make an argument that that's not an excuse because it is Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's been around. He knows what he's doing. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been here before. So I can absolutely agree with you on saying like, well, that excuse isn't valid. 100%. I think that. I'm just trying to be realistic, honestly. Because how many years have we said Cowboys have all the talent in the world? They should not lose games. They should not, barely make the playoffs. They should be in a good spot because of how much talent they have. And it's just ultimately down to the head coach. I'm just being realistic. I'm tired of seeing 8-8. I'm tired of seeing a barely not making the playoffs, even though they had the best roster in the NFL. I'm just going to say it. Like, they're good. They're going to be good, but they ain't going to be great.
I'm just tired of seeing careers wasted because, dude, like, was Tony Romo 8-8 material? Let's be real.
That man was 12-4, 13-3 type of quarterback.
Was Des Bryant 8-8 material? No. Was Jason Wynn 8-8 material? Well, I mean, before his slowdown for obvious reasons. Yeah. Was he 8-8 material? No, he wasn't. I'm gonna go way back for obvious reasons. Was DeMarco Murray 8-8 material? No. I mean,
that offensive
come on.
line?
Was that 8-8 material? Hell no. 3 years in a row, the best offensive line in the NFL. That's a joke that they went 8-8. Yeah. Come on, it's sad. And I guess I'll hit personally to you. Was D-Ware 8-8 material?
Wasted.
Absolutely wasted. It's a travesty. It really is. So I'm tired of. I agree with you. I'm tired of seeing 8-8 seasons. I'm tired of seeing careers wasted. I just want. You see other teams like the Chiefs. You see other teams like the 49ers. You see other teams like, I guess, the Patriots before they started losing and Tom Brady was like regressing. But you see those teams and you can confidently say, oh, Super Bowl or bust, Mm-hmm. But why not for us? Why does the argument change when it's the Cowboys? Back then it was because coaching staff, Jason Garrett, you're trash. Now I can't fall onto that side. It's Super Bowl or bust for me, and I'm not going to change my opinion because that's just how I see it.
Typical Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
This is our season.
This is our year. Puro pinche Cowboy. But I mean, but yeah, I just can't. I can't see anything else other than Super Bowl just because it's the way it is. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our opinion. That's it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see in 5 months. No, 3 months. 3 months.
Who knows? At this point? All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Bubble Let Sports Podcast. Thank you again for Kevin joining me today. As always, a pleasure. Won't be always the last time. So we're probably going to do until like something changes. We'll probably be doing this weekly.
Yeah, probably.
And there'll probably be more news as we go along. It won't just be Cowboys. It'll be NFL. So,
yeah.
All right. So, thank you for joining us, for listening, for watching, wherever you're watching this or viewing this from. whatever. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow, and keep supporting the podcast. This, you just back to back fucking episodes that we're doing here. And,
hey man, it's content. We got to do it.
We got to bring it back. I've been gone too long, and you guys deserve better. So, thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Bubble Up Sports Podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you